Are you looking to do deals and master flipping houses? Welcome to the Do Deals Show with our host, Mr. Tim Mai. As a successful investor and mentor to many real estate investors, Tim's students consistently run 6- and 7-figure investing businesses. Each week, you'll hear from top real estate investors who share the best strategies, systems, and secrets that you can use to be more successful. Tim and his guests will pull back the curtain for you to learn their exact tactics, tricks, and tools that are working best right now in today's real estate market. Now, let's welcome Mr. Tim Mai.
All right, well, hello everybody. Welcome to this interview. Hello, Facebook Live. Today I have Jared Garfield on the line with us. And Jared's like the king of passive income. Not only does he have a portfolio of over 200 properties for himself, his company, he also been helping other investors how to build their rental portfolio, their passive income. He has sold like thousands of properties, over 4,000 properties, to different hedge fund groups and investment groups, and investors all over the country. And so I wanted to ask Jared to share with you. Jared, what is the fastest way for someone to start building their passive income through real estate investing?
Tim, that's going to depend a little bit on the individual situation, but I think the best strategy is if you live in a high-priced market like Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, or Boston, basically anywhere north of Charlotte on the eastern seaboard or anywhere on the West Coast, whether you're in Seattle or Portland, the real estate prices have gone up so much that if you've got an investment property or a second home, if you can 1031 exchange that property and sell it with no tax consequences and roll the money tax-free, going from one property to as many as 27 or 30 properties, I've been able to take clients from one rental property to 27, 28 properties where they went from making $18,000 a year net to $120,000 a year. I mean, that's 6 times the cash flow off of the same money.
Wow, that's amazing tip. So basically you're saying that you don't have to invest where you live, but go where the cash flow is, right?
Absolutely. For our properties, a lot of times these are in good, solid, blue-collar, working-class neighborhoods. We're not talking urban city ghettos. We're not talking about real rough areas where there's crime or gang activity. We're not talking about 1920s shotgun-style houses that need lots of deferred maintenance. We're talking about 1960s, 70s, and 80s brick ranches that are 1,500 square feet that we have at 79, 80,000 that bring in $850 to $950 a month in rent. And cash flow up from anywhere between 17% cash-on-cash return and 22% cash-on-cash return. And that doesn't count the tax advantages that you get.
Phenomenal. All right, Facebook, there you have it. Make sure you keep an eye out for the entire interview when we post it, okay?
I said I love your enthusiasm. You do such a great job of being fun and enthusiastic.
Thank you. Yeah, I love it. I love doing this kind of stuff. I love sharing knowledge and learning from guys like you. I mean, yeah, I love doing this. So so now, I wanted to mention a little bit more. I mean, you have done so much since you started in this business back in '99, right? You.
And funny, Tim, I started as a college student. I served a mission for our church for 2 years. I came home at 21 years old. Didn't have a penny to my name. My wife, when we got married, had a little bit of money. We bought a bank foreclosure and made $45,000 on it after living in it for 2 years. And I got started using the Carlton Sheets program that I bought off of television. And they called me up and they wanted like $6,000 or $8,000 for the coaching program. I talked them down to $199 for all the video cassettes, because it was videos at that time, not DVDs, but the video cassettes and the audio tapes. And I started using his course, and that's how I got started. So it just goes to show that anybody who, and then I got a real estate license after that so I could get access to the properties. And now I'm a broker. But it just goes to show anybody can get started as long as you have work ethic. I think it's a misnomer, and it builds false hope when people say anybody can do it, because if you're lazy, you can't do it. But anybody who's willing to get out there and really work and really put some time in, and if they'll go build the teams, there's so many people that are willing to teach you and help and mentor you at no charge even. There's just so many great things that can be done, but you have to be willing to work.
Wow. That's a great advice, like lesson right there, right? Like, yeah, that so obviously you have gotten really good with doing it, building your team. I mean, not too many times when I interview someone who have like literally sold over 4,000 properties. Your video just went out. There you go. Yeah, over 4,000 properties, and selling to hedge funds and selling to all these real estate groups, Rich Dad Poor Dad group, and Flipping Vegas, and all of everyone you've sold to so far, all over the country too. That's what's so unique about you, because I know some of the guys that I talk to that do turnkey properties, they focus on one geographic location, normally where they live. But you do your research, you invest all over the country, you sell all over the country. Give us some tip on how you build such an amazing team to be able to do all that.
So the first thing we did is when I was working for Robert Kiyosaki with Rich Dad Poor Dad, people would pay 15, 20 grand for coaching. And I would hear people say, oh, well, you can make money anywhere in real estate. And you'd hear these coaches talking to somebody in San Francisco. And this was in 2007. And California real estate had gone up 25% a year for 5 straight years. It had done that in Phoenix. It had done it in Las Vegas. So we knew that Nevada, Phoenix, California, and Miami, Florida, we knew those markets were going to crash because it was unsustainable. We knew that it was a bubble. I didn't anticipate Lehman Brothers and mortgage-backed derivatives, but the truth is I had built a spreadsheet that analyzed 278 markets across the country. We've now turned that into a software, and we analyzed 278 markets across the country on about 60 different variables, everything from appreciation over the last quarter, the last year, the last 5 years, the last 25 years, to the median home cost, the median income, the affordability ratio, future job growth, current job growth, unemployment, vacancy rates, everything you can think of, crime, all that type of stuff, and what population growth. We like to look at all of those different variables. And we try to figure out, based on the markets, on the absorption rates, how long the houses are taking to sell, what percentage below discount they're selling, what percentage of foreclosures there are, how many foreclosures there are below 50,000. In most markets, if you're going to really cash flow, if you want a 17 or 20% return, and you want to be in a C plus or B minus solid, stable, working class neighborhood, you need to be in that $50,000 to $70,000 price range on your acquisition price. And what we found is if you go below 50,000, the neighborhood gets too rough, the deferred maintenance is too much, and it's a lot harder project, and it doesn't perform. It looks great on paper, but you won't perform as well in reality because the neighborhood's not great. The turnover on tenants is higher, the damage to the property is higher. But if you can stick to a minimum of $50,000 to $70,000 property purchase price, a lot of times, if you're in the $850 to $1,100 rent, you can get a high-quality tenant, and that varies a little bit by market. I mean, obviously, that doesn't hold true for New York City, but if you're in the southeastern United States, anywhere south of the Mason-Dixon, Tennessee across to Texas, and the breadbasket states of Oklahoma, Missouri, Kansas, that holds really true. And so we've been doing this in Kansas City. We've got teams in St. Louis. We've got stuff going in Montgomery, Birmingham, Huntsville, Atlanta, and just really excited about the opportunity. So the difference between most turnkey providers and us is, or at least one difference, is we go to the right market based on where it is in the market cycle, and we go get the very best properties in the markets, whereas most people invest where they live because they have a construction background or they're a real estate broker, and they just happen to do real estate investing where they live because that's what they know, and they're not willing to relocate their families. We'd rather go build the very best teams in the markets that provide the best opportunity and do it that way.
Wow. Okay. So what does that look like when you build a team? When you go in the market, I guess you scout out like local agent, local contractors. Do you outsource any of the property management to local property managers as well?
So if we open up a market, we own a PMI franchise, Property Management Incorporated. They have over 200 franchises across the country. And so what we try and do is we try and get one of the franchisees that's there local, because that way all of our investors are experiencing the same systems, the same rules, the same owner portals, the same tenant portals, and the same contracts. And so that helps a lot. And so we'll go open up with the same property management team in each city. And then we have national contractors that work all across the country that do work for all the biggest hedge funds. And that gives us, I can install a condensing unit for $600 plus labor. Most of the time, most paying $3,500. I get it for about $1,000 brand new for a Goodman 2.5 ton unit. I can get paint done at $1.20 a square foot. I install carpet for $11.50 for a 8-pound pad and like a 22-ounce carpet. I get that installed for about $11 a yard. Tile at $4.25 a square foot. So it's you have to get the pricing down right. So we've been able to use national vendors because of volume and get a nationally managed account with Home Depot. I get Behr paint, the Behr premium paint at $9 a gallon. So most of the time, my investors can't buy the property and renovate it, doing all the work themselves for the price that I can do it. And even when they're paying me a fee to do it for them, they can't do it at my price because my material and labor price is so much cheaper than what they can get that even with our fee, we can provide it about what they'd be in it if they did it themselves without. So when you go in for a team, you've got to have a great property management team, because it really doesn't matter how great a deal you get on the property. If you don't have somebody to place a great tenant where they really screen the tenant and make sure the tenant's going to pay, that means background checks, credit checks, employment verification, talking to the 3 previous landlords, because a lot of times the current landlord, if they're really bad, they want them out. They'll tell you how great they are just to get them out of their house. So you got to talk to the 3 previous landlords. So good property management's important. We do automatic draft right out of the tenant's bank account. If they don't have a bank account, we won't rent to them. It's going to be automatically zapped out of their account every month on the same day. And we do credit reporting so that we're reporting to the credit bureaus if they pay their rent on time, which builds their credit, which is a big benefit for them. But because they know that that's going to happen, they're more likely to pay. The second thing, you've got to have a really awesome real estate agent. Most real estate agents are great for selling a house. Well, actually, that's not true. Half the real estate agents are part-time, and you never want a part-time agent who's doing it on the side. But even the full-time agents who make a good living, they know how to stage a house. They might know how to comp it. They might know how to price it. They may be great at advertising. You go ask them what return on investment is, half the time they won't even be able to tell you. Ask them what a cap rate is, and they'll give you a dumbfounded look. So you have to go find a real estate agent that specializes in HUD, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac properties, that they're a bank REO agent. That's what you're looking for. And you want them to know all the areas that need to be redlined. And when I talk about redline, we're not talking about anything that's protected by fair housing laws. We're only talking about crime. We want to know what parts of town that Domino's Pizza won't deliver because they're worried about getting shot. We want to make sure we stay out of high crime areas. High crime is not a protected class. There's crime in everywhere. So you want to make sure that you avoid high crime areas, because nobody wants to live in an area where they have to worry about their safety. Okay. So getting the right real estate agent that really knows investment properties is a real plus. So we'll go get the real estate agent, and we find that because of the volume we're doing, they'll work for us exclusively. My best agent last year, in his best month, made $45,000 in 1 month because of the volume of properties that we purchased. So get an agent that's really willing to put the time in, and that means that every time a foreclosure hits the market, they need to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning, walking through it, shooting 30 or 40 photos, shooting a video, and then you want I train all of my agents to have my scope sheets so that when they walk through, they know my scope standard, and they'll give me a price estimate based on my pricing schedule of what the house is going to cost to rehab. They're not going to get exact, but at least that way, when I submit the offer to the REO department, the asset manager sees the scope and the bid, and it's easier for me to lowball my offers, and they know that I'm not going to back out because they know that I already know what the rehab costs. And so I win a lot of offers, even if my offer is lower, because people see my proof of funds. You need to have a big proof of funds. If you can show a big proof of funds and you can show that you know what the rehab is and you're not going to back out, then you're in good shape. So the real estate agent is second after the property management, and the third thing is your rehab crews and teams, and that's imperative, because most beginner investors, if they're going to lose their shirt, it's going to be because they hire the wrong contractor, where the guy walks off the job halfway through, you've paid him, but the job's not complete, and you've got to step in and finish it. You can't do that. So we escrow all money with a closing attorney, and we have an independent inspector that goes by and inspects after each draw, and we don't pay anything until we've inspected every line item on that draw and make sure that it was completed.
Wow, that sounds like an incredible system, for sure. So So I'm thinking, okay, as as let's say as a newbie investor, get investing in real estate is scary enough already, right? And so a lot of them settle for investing in the market in their own local area. How do you overcome or answer to that? Say, hey, look, investing elsewhere is just as safe, and makes you more money than investing in your own local market. How do you speak into that?
Well, it's actually safer to invest out of state a lot of times because if I've done $4,000 deals as a team, I have a lot more experience than the newbie investor does. I'm a real estate broker and I've been doing this for 18 years, and so I've seen everything. I know what to look for. I know what to avoid. I can drive through a neighborhood and just tell you off my gut feel why I wouldn't invest in that neighborhood, and you're always going to be right. You have to stick to your gut feeling. So the first thing is, right now we're in the information age. And with the internet, there's websites like housescout.com, city-data.com, bestplaces.net. You can go in and put in a zip code. And what I find for a lot of clients that are out of state, they'll go in and tell me about their investment property and how much they it, and I'll pull up the zip code and show them that the crime rates where they are 3 times the crime rates where I am, and that my education levels are twice as high, and that my income level for my zip code is twice as high. And so when I can sit there and show them the demographics for the neighborhood, and they go, wow, your education levels are twice as good, your incomes are twice as high, your crime is 1/3 of what it is where I live, it's really not scary at all to invest out of state. And the other thing is you have to get a total rehab scope. And if you're getting a rehab scope where you can see 23,000 worth of rehab is done, and we're full disclosure, we'll show, here's what we pay for carpet installation, here's the labor, here's the materials. You know exactly what we're paying. Go see if you can go to the yellow pages. Go talk to anybody you want to talk to and see if they can match the pricing that we do. So my pitch is if I can buy the property, renovate the property, do all the work for you with all the experience I have, if I can provide it to you probably 5,000 to 10,000 cheaper than you could do it yourself, why would you want to do the work? Because you have a full-time job. We want this to be a passive income, not a second job.
Right. Awesome. And then, so most of you, I guess the properties that I know, not the ones that you sell to hedge funds and stuff, but when you sell to, mom and pop investors, do you have like financing in place as well to help them, or how does that part of?
We do excellent sources. We have people that are non-recourse. So if somebody wants to cash out take their 401k and roll it into a self-directed IRA, a lot of times if you've left an old employer, and that's a great route to go. Because you're not going to earn. Most people are not earning consistently 15 or 20% in the stock market, and the stock market's way up right now. There's a good chance it could go down. So if you can roll over a 401k into a self-directed IRA, we have non-recourse lenders that they can use your IRA, and you can put 50% down and double the amount of properties that you can get. We've got small local bank lenders that have very good interest rates that'll let you do up to nine additional properties over and above your other home that you live in your primary residence. And then in addition to that, we have commercial lenders like Colony American, which is a great resource. They'll do 30-year amortization, and they have pretty low rates, 5.1%, or even 5.3, which for a commercial loan, that's great. The closing costs are low, and so we've got commercial lenders that will wrap in 10 or 20 homes into one loan, which is great.
Right. And then what are some of the criteria you're looking for when you assess an area, whether or not, okay, that's a good area? You look for, is it strictly cash flow? Is it cash flow and appreciation? What kind of rent multiples? Like, what are some of the things you look for?
So usually we like to be around, you always follow the 1% rule. If the rent doesn't hit at least 1% of the purchase price, you don't want to touch it. And that's hard to do in a lot of markets, but we often are hitting 1.1, 1.2. And so if you buy a house for $85,000, it should rent for a minimum of $850, but preferably $900 to $950. But as far as identifying a good neighborhood, you can go to the local police department and ask for an incident report for the neighborhood. That's very effective. Trulia has a crime map that's a nice tool to glance at. There's familywatchdog.us shows where predators are, and typically birds of a feather flock together. If there's a lot of predators, you can guess there's a lot of other criminals, and it's going to be a pretty rough area as well. And so those are all really good tools, but you've got to drive the neighborhoods. If you see a lot of boarded up houses, you don't want to buy in that neighborhood. If there's bars on every other window, I don't mind a house if there's 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 20 that has bars in a window. A lot of times you'll find an older lady there where maybe 10 or 15 years ago the neighborhood had a break-in and they put bars in the window because she was scared, but the neighborhood's fine. So you want to watch for those things. Pride of ownership. You don't want tarps on roofs. You want to make sure that the yards are well maintained. I like to buy where the houses aren't right on top of each other. You can't fix a neighbor. You can fix up a house all you want, but if the neighbor has a truck up on blocks next door, or a kennel full of pit bulls that are trying to leap the fence to chew on your leg, probably not a house you want to buy. So those are all things we take into consideration. You also want to look at the retail in the area. What are the surrounding retail shops? If it's tidal ponds and bars and pool halls and buy here, pay here car lots and cash advance loan places, you're going to be in a D or possibly even an F neighborhood. Whereas if you've got Starbucks, and down here public shopping centers, there's certain retailers that you tend to find in higher end areas. So instead of having a small mom and pop restaurant or something, or a Burger King, I might have a higher end like Panera Bread. And so, and again, you don't want to invest in country club areas because that's not where you get returns, but you do want to be in working class to solid middle class. I also think it's important to stay at or below the median home cost. That's where most of the renters are. Most people who are renting don't want to rent a $2,200 a month house. And if the economy ever goes down, a property that's cash flowing at 20%, you can always lower the rents, and a 12% return would still be very acceptable during a bad economic time period. But if you have to rent the house for $2,200 a month and the economy becomes shaky, your cash flow goes away real fast.
Gotcha. Okay. And so what about appreciation? Do you put that into account as well?
If you can get appreciation, that's a real bonus. And if you're buying in a market that is in an absorption market, which is what we try to do, an absorption market means that the foreclosure inventory is starting to go away real fast and prices are starting to go up, but they haven't really escalated yet. And that's when you want to buy because that's where you're going to see appreciation. And in markets like Alabama or anywhere really in the South, other than Atlanta and Florida and like Nashville, Tennessee, when you get into a Mississippi, an Alabama, a Missouri, you're going to not have huge appreciation like you might have in a California or a Texas right now or Arizona. But what you are going to see is maybe 3 to 5% in some of the bigger metros. But what we're looking for is not so much long-term appreciation as we are the immediate bounce back from buying at the bottom of the market. So what we think will happen is a market like Huntsville, Alabama will recover. So it'll recover quickly. And as it recovers, if you're buying a house that sold for $120,000 before the collapse, and if you're buying it for turnkey for $75,000, that it was worth $110,000 or $115,000 7 years ago. We believe it will get back to being worth $115,000, and then you'll see 2 or 3% appreciation after that.
Gotcha. Okay, that's phenomenal. So as a client, if I go and buy a property from you, what do I have to do? What am I responsible for? Other than
you have to be able to get the loan or provide the financing, and we'll help you with lenders. For us, if we have a property, what we're going to do is we're going to give you a 6-month warranty on all work that was done on the property. We'll provide the rehab scope so you can see everything that's done. You'll get a home inspection, and we'll negotiate and take care of a lot of the items. If there are some that come up on the home inspection, we take care of a lot of that. Of course, anything like a condensing unit or a roof that was replaced would have a warranty on it. We already have the tenants in place. Every property we do, we don't have the client close until they have the tenant in place. So it cash flows and you receive a check at the closing table. As soon as you close, you receive prorated rent for that month, and it's running. So we would expect an owner to look at their owner portal and to be able to see the expenses that are coming in and see the income that's coming in and glance at their owner portal. But it's just passive. I mean, we direct deposit up to twice a month directly into the owner's bank account through electronic draft. And so it's really pretty easy. If somebody wants to fly in, we like to drive them around the market and let them experience it and get a feel for things. And we'll teach them about the demographics. And we're happy to coach our clients as they look at buying properties. and we don't really charge them for that. We love to help investors to succeed.
That's phenomenal. Okay, so it is really passive, right?
Yeah,
Like, yeah. Yeah, you pretty much handle everything from, finding the property to rehabbing it, putting the tenant in place. So as a buyer, I don't even have to make the decision until all of that is in place. Is that correct?
that's correct. And if a client wants to get in earlier, we'll allow them to, if they want to use their capital to do the acquisition and stuff like that, they want to choose the property or choose, have some selection on carpet. We're open to doing some of that if that's what somebody wants to do. We also, in addition to cash flow properties, we have some properties that might have 30 or 40,000 equity that are in A areas with schools that are rated 10s. And so you might be able to get a house, like we had a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house in Madison, Alabama, where the median income was $105,000 a year. So that's an excellent neighborhood. And it's in a 10-rated school district. We bought the house, renovated it. We sold it to an investor for $130,000. The house should rent for about $13.50 a month. It's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house with 2 family rooms, hardwood floors, granite countertops, tile backsplash, and all stainless steel appliances. So you can get an A-class property for maybe around $130,000, but instead of making 20% cash on cash return, you might make 12, if that makes sense.
Right, and even at 12 is phenomenal.
Yeah, the property's worth $165,000, so you have $35,000 equity built in.
Right, that's awesome. Cool. All right, so obviously by doing this, you also have the side of your business where you're selling a lot of properties, more or less you're flipping a lot of properties, right? So give us some tips if someone doesn't have the volume that you do to be able to get repairs and materials really cheap. Give us some tip that they might be able to get some good discount, even though they only do a few properties a year.
Well, the first thing is I would get with somebody who is big like us and ask if you can pay cash and use their Home Depot account. So I get on average about a 30% discount. So for my investors that are working with me, what we'll often do is we'll let them use our account and get our pricing because it just helps our volume go up. And so I don't care even if they didn't buy the house from me. I don't care if they go and use my account at Home Depot. They have to use their own payment, of course. But we don't mind that. That's one thing I would do. But you've got to go and I would go find other big investors, maybe at a local real estate investment association, and find out who they're using. They're glad to share their vendors because the more they help their vendors get business, the better pricing that they can get. And so that's what I would start out with, I think, if I were going to do that. And one other thing I think is important, if you're going to buy a turnkey property, ask what they bought it for. Ask to see what they renovated it for. Ask to see the scopes and exactly what cost went into it. If somebody's making $15,000 to $20,000 on you, unless that house has $30,000 to $40,000 equity and they're leaving some meat on the bone for you, you're probably paying too much. If you can see that they're making $4,000 to $6,000, look, it's obvious that money follows value, right? And the more value that's provided, the more income somebody should make. And so I found that nobody ever cares if I make $4,000 to $7,000 on providing them a turnkey property where all the work has been done, because people know that you're in business and that you have to make money to stay in business. And the last thing you want to do is do business with somebody who cuts their prices so cheap that they're here today and gone tomorrow, and they can't support you in business because they didn't make profit.
Gotcha. Okay. And then I know you sell a ton of properties to hedge funds. When you sell to hedge funds, do you sell them as is? You just wholesale to them, or do you do turnkey just like you do for everyone else?
Yeah. Turnkey, just like we do for everybody else, and we provide the same pricing to the public that we do to the hedge funds. The hedge funds, the way that they're set up, they need the money, they need the properties to cash flow from day one because they're paying a return on the money that they have in the fund. And so they're interested in turnkey. They don't really want to buy properties that are foreclosed. Some of them will. The really big ones did a lot of that, but a lot of the hedge funds now like to buy them turnkey if they can.
Gotcha. Okay. And how do you find these hedge funds? Like, is there a place that they go and hang out? Like, what's the best place if someone wants to, like, hey, I want to sell some properties to hedge funds. How did you get?
Is the IMN conference. They hold them once a year for single family aggregation. They have one for apartment complexes as well. We just had 4 speakers from our company go out and speak on panels at the IMN conference in Phoenix. But they hold one once a year in Phoenix, and they hold one once a year that's usually in Miami. And the IMN conference is a great place to meet hedge funds. If you want to go into the tax records and start researching who's buying the most, properties, that's a good way too, because then you can go into the MLS and find out who the agents are that represent these hedge funds, because the tax records will tell you. So a lot of the big hedge funds are Colony, Blackstone, 643 Capital, Waypoint. There's a lot of really big hedge funds, and usually they find one or two real estate brokers in a particular city, and then they use that broker to do all of their acquisition. So if you can find out who the real estate agent is that's servicing these funds, a lot of times you can sell your property through those agents. The agents are glad to make a commission, and they're glad to sell your property to the hedge fund, because it's getting harder and harder for everybody to get inventory, especially the hedge funds.
That's awesome. Great tip. Jed, thank you so much, buddy. This has been a phenomenal interview. I mean, you're like spilling out tons of good information, great tips. Thank you so much for that. Now, I know the listeners are probably, wanting to get in touch with you, whether to buy properties from you or somehow, connect with you and do some business with you. Where do you want to send them?
If they go to richliferealestate.com, that shows a lot of the stuff that we've done in Atlanta and also in Alabama and Kansas City and stuff like that. But richliferealestate.com, they're welcome to call me on my cell phone, which is 404-718-9126. I do keep pretty busy, but if somebody leaves me a message or texts me, I'll reply and get back to them. And so those would be two great avenues to keep in touch with us.
That's awesome. All right, cool. Well, Jed, I have one more question for you, buddy. So to me, all entrepreneurs are heroes. Do you see yourself as a hero?
Well, I don't know about that. I'll tell you what I do feel good about. I feel good about what I do because I know that we're making a massive impact on neighborhoods. We are improving neighborhoods. I have 28 full-time rehab crews that work exclusively for me. So I know that we're providing a lot of jobs. We're making an impact on the economy, and we're improving neighborhoods. We're taking houses that were foreclosed, and we're really making them nice. We're giving tenants the nicest houses. And I think that's another important point is if you're an investor, make sure you provide the nicest product. If I don't worry about the economy dropping, because if my houses are renovated way better than anybody else's, my properties will stay filled even if somebody else's aren't. So I feel good about improving and giving people a nice place they can live in and have pride of ownership where they can feel really good about themselves. So I don't know if I would consider myself a hero, but I feel like we're good people doing good things and we're making an impact in the lives of a lot of people.
That's awesome. That is a hero in my eyes for sure. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for all that you do, all the difference that you make out there. And thank you so much for making a difference for all the people who are listening to this interview.
Thanks for having me, Tim. I love your enthusiasm. I've loved watching you over the years and learning from you. And it's just great to spend some time with you today.
Yes, definitely. Likewise. All right, Jed. We're going to end this interview now. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching, listening. See you on the next interview.
And that's our show for today. If you have any questions or would like to get further training from Tim Mai, please visit our website at www.dodeals.com/Tim.